In 1822, something vanished from music that human beings had been experiencing for thousands of years. Not a melody, not an instrument, a frequency. The exact vibration that resonated with the human body's natural state disappeared from Western composition overnight, replaced by a standardized system that we've been told was scientific progress. But what if the removal wasn't about improving music? What if it was about controlling how music made you feel? Before we go any further, if you're the kind of person who questions the official narrative and wants to understand what's been hidden from us, hit subscribe. This channel digs into the history they don't want you to know. New videos every week. The year 1822 marks one of the strangest shifts in musical history. For centuries, composers across Europe had used what we now call natural tuning, where the note A vibrated at 432 Hz. This wasn't arbitrary. Ancient instruments, from Tibetan singing bowls forged in the Himalayas to Greek lyres played in the temples of Apollo, were built around frequencies that aligned with mathematical patterns found in nature. The Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic frequency of Earth itself, vibrates at 7.83 Hz. When you double that frequency repeatedly, following the harmonic series, you eventually arrive at 432 Hz. It's not coincidence, it's resonance. It's the frequency that connects human consciousness to the electromagnetic field of the Earth itself. But in 1822, a push began to standardize music at a different frequency. The Stuttgart Conference brought German instrument manufacturers who argued for raising the pitch to make their products sound brighter and more attention-grabbing. Brighter sound sold more tickets. The proposal was 440 Hz for the note A, 8 Hz higher than the natural frequency humanity had used for millennia. The resistance was immediate. Giuseppe Verdi, arguably the most influential composer of the 19th century, wrote passionate letters begging the Italian government to reject the change. He called 432 Hz the scientific pitch and argued that pushing frequencies higher would destroy the human voice. Singers would have to strain. The warmth of the voice would be replaced by tension. Other composers joined him. The French Academy of Sciences recommended keeping the natural pitch. But they were fighting against money, against industry, against the momentum of standardization. By 1939, the debate was over. The Nazis held an international conference in London and successfully lobbied for 440 Hz to become the global standard. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's Minister of Propaganda, understood the power of frequency. He'd studied how certain rhythms could agitate crowds or lull them into compliance. Whether the Nazis intentionally chose 440 Hz for its disruptive properties is debated, but a regime built on psychological manipulation ensured the frequency became international law. Listeners who experienced music tuned to 432 Hz before the shift described something modern audiences rarely feel. They didn't just hear the music, they felt it in their chest, in their bones, in their nervous system. Historical accounts from the 18th and early 19th century concert halls describe audiences weeping openly during performances, not from sadness, but from the sheer physical intensity of the emotional response. Men who'd fought in wars sat in concert halls and cried because the music reached something inside them that words couldn't touch. This wasn't entertainment. This was an experience that could heal emotional trauma and create states of deep calm or euphoria. Composers understood they were writing medicine. Beethoven's later works, composed when he was completely deaf and could only feel the vibrations, were specifically designed to create physical responses in the body. Letters from the period describe how certain compositions could stop panic attacks, ease chronic pain, or help someone process years of grief. The human body is roughly 60% water. Your brain is 73% water. Your lungs are 83% water. Water has memory. It responds to vibration. Japanese researcher Masaru Emoto demonstrated this by exposing water to different sounds and frequencies, then flash freezing it to observe the crystal structures that formed. Water exposed to harmonious music created symmetrical, geometrically perfect patterns. Water exposed to discordant noise formed chaotic, broken structures that looked diseased under the microscope. If your body is 60% water, and water responds to frequency by restructuring itself at the molecular level, then the music you listen to is literally restructuring you at a cellular level. This isn't metaphor, this is physics. Every frequency that enters your ears and travels through the fluid in your body is changing the physical structure of the water that makes up most of who you are. At 432 Hz, music synchronizes with the natural rhythm of the heart, which beats at roughly 72 beats per minute when calm. 72 is a harmonic of 432. When you divide 432 by 6, you get exactly 72. The heart generates an electromagnetic field stronger than the brain's, extending several feet beyond the body. When you listen to music tuned to your heart's natural frequency, that field strengthens, becomes more coherent. You feel grounded, your breathing slows, your blood pressure drops, cortisol levels fall. Your body interprets the 432 Hertz frequency as a signal that everything is safe, that you can stop running, stop scanning for threats. At 440 Hz, that synchronization breaks. The frequency is slightly sharper, slightly out of alignment. Instead of calming the nervous system, it stimulates it. Your heart rate doesn't quite settle. Your breathing stays shallow. Some researchers argue this creates a subtle state of agitation, a low-level stress response that listeners don't consciously register, but their bodies never forget. Over time, this could contribute to anxiety, chronic restlessness, and a sense of disconnection from your own physical state. So why would anyone want to shift an entire civilization away from a frequency that promotes calm and connection? The official story is that 440 Hz allowed for better standardization across instruments and orchestras. Before the shift, different regions tuned to slightly different frequencies, making it difficult for musicians to collaborate internationally. Standardization was presented as progress, a way to unify the musical world under one agreed-upon system. But here's where the official story falls apart. Standardization could have happened at any frequency. There was no scientific reason it had to be 440 Hz. In fact, when the shift was proposed in the early 19th century, many composers resisted. Giuseppe Verdi, one of the most influential composers of the era, publicly campaigned for music to remain tuned to 432 Hz, which he called the natural pitch. He argued that the shift to higher frequencies would damage the human voice and create a harsh, unnatural sound. Verdi wasn't alone. Composers across Europe fought the change. They lost. By the late 1800s, 440 Hz was gaining ground, pushed by instrument manufacturers who argued it made their products sound brighter and more commercially appealing. Brighter sound sold more tickets, but brightness isn't the same as resonance. A brighter sound might catch your attention, but it doesn't sink into your body the way natural frequencies do. It stimulates without satisfying, entertains without nourishing. Then came 1939. The Nazis held an international conference in London where they successfully lobbied for 440 Hz to become the global standard. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's Minister of Propaganda, understood the power of frequency. He knew that sound could be weaponized, that certain vibrations could agitate crowds or suppress dissent. Whether or not the Nazis intentionally chose 440 Hz for its disruptive properties is still debated, but the fact remains that a regime built on psychological manipulation ensured the frequency became law. After World War II, the 440 Hz standard was adopted by the International Organization for Standardization. Every music school, every recording studio, every instrument manufacturer fell in line. Within a generation, 432 Hz music had nearly vanished from Western culture. Most people alive today have never heard a full orchestra tuned to the natural frequency. They've been conditioned to accept 440 Hz as normal, unaware that their grandparents experienced something fundamentally different. But some people remember. Before the shift, concert halls were treated like sacred spaces. Audiences didn't clap between movements. They sat in silence, absorbing the vibrations, allowing the music to work on them physically and emotionally. Composers understood they were working with something beyond entertainment. They were manipulating frequencies that could alter consciousness, heal trauma, or elevate the spirit. Music wasn't background noise, it was medicine. The Tartarian connection runs deeper than most realize. The civilization we call Tartaria built structures specifically designed to resonate with natural frequencies. Cathedrals with impossible acoustic properties, domed buildings that amplified sound in ways modern architects can't explain. Massive stone structures with dimensions that match the harmonic ratios found in music theory. These were acoustic instruments on a massive scale. Every arch and column and dome was calculated to amplify frequencies that promoted healing and spiritual connection. When you walk into an old cathedral, you feel it. The space hums, your voice echoes in ways that feel otherworldly. These buildings were designed to resonate at 432 Hertz and its harmonic multiples. Tartarian architects understood cymatics, the study of how sound creates physical patterns in matter. They knew that certain frequencies could organize matter into sacred geometric forms. Sound vibrated at specific frequencies arranges itself into perfect geometric patterns, the same patterns carved into Tartarian walls. These weren't decorations. They were blueprints showing how frequency organizes the physical world. After the mud floods and the deliberate destruction of Tartarian infrastructure, that knowledge was systematically suppressed. The shift from 432 to 440 Hz wasn't just about music. It was about severing humanity's connection to natural resonance, making populations easier to control, more anxious, more disconnected from their own intuition. A population vibrating at 432 Hz is grounded, calm, hard to manipulate. They trust their bodies. They listen to their instincts. A population vibrating at 440 Hz is slightly off balance, slightly stressed, slightly more susceptible to external authority because their internal authority has been disrupted. Modern science is rediscovering what ancient civilizations knew. Studies on binaural beats confirm that specific frequencies can shift consciousness between alertness and deep meditation. Sound therapy research shows certain vibrations can reduce chronic pain and accelerate healing. Hospitals are experimenting with sound therapy during surgery. Meditation apps use frequency-based soundscapes. We're slowly remembering that sound is more than entertainment. It's technology. But mainstream music remains locked at 440 Hz. The industry has no incentive to change. Instruments are manufactured to that standard. Recording equipment is calibrated to it. Changing the entire global music infrastructure back to 432 Hz would cost billions and disrupt an industry built on the current system. So instead, the knowledge stays buried, dismissed as pseudoscience by people who've never actually tested the difference. You can test the difference yourself. There are recordings online of the same piece of music at both frequencies. Listen to Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata at 440 Hz, then at 432. Use headphones. Close your eyes. At 440, the sound stays in your head, cerebral and sharp. Your thoughts might wander. Now play the 432 version. The sound drops into your chest and gut, resonant and grounding. Your breathing deepens without you trying. Your jaw unclenches. The music feels like it's coming from inside your body, like the sound is remembering something your cells knew before you were born. Independent musicians are returning to 432 Hz, recording albums designed to work with natural frequencies. These don't get radio play or chart on Billboard. The entire industry infrastructure is built around 440 Hz. But people who find these recordings report profound experiences. Deep emotional releases, clearing decades of trauma. Physical sensations of warmth, chronic pain easing. The kind of responses that used to be normal when music was tuned correctly. The question isn't whether 432 Hz is objectively better for all purposes, in all contexts. The question is why it was removed in the first place. why the removal happened during a specific historical window when so much else was being standardized and controlled, and why restoring it is treated as fringe pseudoscience instead of historical fact worthy of investigation. We know the frequency existed. We have the instruments. We have the written accounts. We have Verdi's letters begging the Italian government not to make the change. We know it was deliberately replaced during the 19th century. We know the replacement was finalized by the Nazis in 1939 and adopted globally after World War II. We know that regimes specialized in psychological manipulation and understood the power of sound to alter consciousness and behavior. These aren't theories. These are documented historical events. The only thing left to debate is whether that manipulation was intentional or accidental, whether the people making these decisions understood what they were doing or stumbled into it through ignorance and greed. Given everything else we know about how history has been rewritten, how Tartarian civilization was erased so thoroughly that mentioning it gets you labeled a conspiracy theorist, how technologies that empower individuals have been systematically suppressed in favor of technologies that centralize control. The idea that music was weaponized seems less like paranoid conspiracy and more like pattern recognition. The same powers that erased Tartaria from the textbooks also erased the frequencies that made you feel whole, connected, grounded in your own body. Music used to be a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. It used to align your body with the rhythms of the earth, with the electromagnetic pulse that every living thing evolved alongside. It used to heal, not through placebo or belief, but through simple physics, through resonance, through the same principles that make a tuning fork vibrate when another tuning fork of the same frequency is struck nearby. Your body is a tuning fork. The earth is a tuning fork. Music at 432 Hz makes them vibrate together. Now music is a product, optimized for attention and profit, engineered to grab your ear and hold it long enough to sell you something. It's tuned to a frequency that keeps you slightly off balance, slightly disconnected, slightly anxious. Not enough to notice consciously, not enough to complain about or even name, but enough to make you search for something you can't quite identify, something missing that you can feel but can't articulate. That something is resonance. The thing they took in 1822 and never gave back. The thing your great-great-grandparents experienced in concert halls and churches that made them weep and heal and feel connected to something larger than themselves. The thing that Tartarian architects built entire cities around, that ancient civilizations encoded in their instruments and their sacred spaces. The frequency that aligns you with your own heartbeat, with the pulse of the planet, with the mathematical order underlying all of creation. It's still there. You can still find it. You can still tune your instruments to 432, still seek out recordings made by musicians who remember, but you have to know it existed in the first place. You have to know what was taken, and now you do.